Hey guys, James here and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, this channel is all about sharing my lifelong love of cars with you all. It's been a minute since we've been in this car. This is my 2021 Mazda CX-30 premium trim level, all-wheel drive, naturally aspirated, meaning non-turbo. I've had this car since about the beginning of March, and so that's about 7 months as we are now in sort of the beginning to middle of October. And I've driven this car, or we've driven this car as a household daily, over 10,000 miles. And so we've just gone over 10,000 miles earlier this week, and I thought I'd give you guys an update on what it's been like to own this car for 10,000 miles. We'll start off by talking about my overall impressions of owning this car, and then we'll get into some of my observations about MPGs and tire wear and things like that. And then we'll talk about what has gone wrong with this car. But, you know, a bit of a spoiler alert, not a lot has gone wrong with this car, but there are some ways in which this car has aged. So I'll kind of go over like what's the difference between this car now and what it was like 10,000 miles / 7 months ago. So how has it sort of degraded a little bit over time, okay? So let's get going. Let's cut right to the chase. Do I still like this car? Absolutely. I still love this car. It is a wonderful daily driver. It's a wonderfully practical little SUV, or CUV I should call it, because it's little, therefore compact utility vehicle. And it really gets the job done exceptionally well. And part of its charm is the fact that even though this car comes from a mainstream brand, which is Mazda, it is that sort of half step nicer than like a Toyota or a Honda. Everybody who has ridden in this car as a passenger or who has driven this car, you know, a few of our friends have driven this car, says it's like actually really nice. This cabin feels really upscale. You've got kind of leather everywhere. Yes, this is the premium trim level where you have like actual real leather instead of pleather. But yeah, we've got kind of leather everywhere on the dashboard. Everything's sort of soft touch. This car is very simple in its interior design. A lot of luxury brands these days, like BMW, Mercedes, they clutter up the interior with tons of tech and buttons and things just to make their cars feel more flashy. This car takes a very simplified approach, and I love that. And simple does not mean lacking. This car has all the tech that I actually want. It has CarPlay / Android Auto. It has, you know, dual zone, automatic climate control, radar, cruise control. The things that I actually use are all here. You know, it doesn't have a lot of gimmicks, and I love that sort of minimalist approach that Mazda is taking. It's like, let's give the customer what they would actually use and omit the rest. Let's talk about MPGs. We use this car as sort of a mixed like city highway sort of driver, and under those conditions we've been averaging 26.5 miles per gallon according to the onboard readout. That's using regular unleaded gas. This car does not need premium because it's just a regular old naturally aspirated engine. It's not high performance, it's not high compression, it's not turbo, so you're totally safe using regular unleaded gas. In terms of tire wear, this car has been wearing the tires very evenly from left to right. I'll put the tire tread depths down below and down here because I don't have them in my brain. I don't have them memorized. But basically the fronts are just a little bit more worn out than the rears, which is to be expected. I mean, this car is a slightly front heavy car, which is pretty normal for a car of this class. It is primarily front wheel drive. It's all wheel drive, but it's a front wheel drive biased system. And, you know, just the fact that in general, the front tires have to do more of the work in braking and steering means that the fronts are going to wear out just a little bit more. I will mention that the alignment from the factory was dead straight. It was perfect as far as I could tell. On the freeway, it never feels like it's pulling one way or the other unless there's an actual slope or a slant in the road. And now, 7 months and 10,000 miles later, the same is still true. The alignment is still dead on perfect. I mean, to be fair, we haven't like smashed into any curbs or anything, but you know, we've driven over our fair share of potholes and things, and this car has shrugged it all off with still apparently very, very good alignment. And finally, the brakes feel exactly the way they did from the factory. I cannot tell any difference in the way they feel from the beginning until now, so that's good. They've held up very well. With all of that good stuff said, let's talk about where this car has gone slightly wrong or where it has sort of aged a little bit. The biggest way that this car has aged over the last 7 months and 10,000 miles is that it has developed more sort of creaks and rattles and buzzes. For example, as I'm driving along here, this road is extremely smooth, but I hear some kind of rattle coming from the dashboard area. Earlier, just about 5 minutes ago when I was going over sort of rough roads, there was some kind of buzzing coming from the front passenger side door near the top of it. And I have mentioned in a previous video that the driver's door tends to creak in its frame, but overall I would say it's really not too bad. To me, it is actually quite acceptable for it to have this sort of level of rattles, creaks, and squeaks at this age. for a mainstream brand. The other thing I want to mention is that the engine is not quite as smooth and not quite as quiet as it used to be. It's a little noisier, a little bit rougher, especially on cold morning starts. It's definitely not something that I would consider to be wrong with this car. It's very much within the range of what I would consider to be normal, and it's definitely not something where I'd, take this to the dealership and be like, hey, fix this thing. Something's broken with the engine. Not at all. So please don't misunderstand me. This engine is fine. It's just that this is the natural course of things, right? As these machines age, they will change over time. And one of those changes that I happen to have observed is that it's just a tiny bit noisier and rougher on cold starts. And now let's talk about the wear and tear that has occurred to this car due to the elements, due to animals, humans, car washes, and so on. Starting from the interior, so there's this black shiny plastic here. It's not quite piano gloss because it does have a little bit of a texture, thank goodness, because if it were truly piano gloss black, I think this would be a lot worse. But basically this panel of plastic came pre-scratched from the dealership, and over the months this has accumulated a little bit more scratchiness. If it gets real bad, you can use Scratch X or one of those compounds to kind of smoothen things out. The plastic in front of the gauge cluster is also a little bit scratched up, despite my best efforts to keep it really pristine. But yeah, Mazda used a really kind of a soft plastic in there, shall we say. Luckily, that only becomes a problem under very particular lighting conditions. When you have light hitting it in a certain way, then you can see all the scratches on that plastic. But 99% of the time, it does not bother me. One surprising thing is that the leather in this cabin, this lovely white leather, has held up really well. Now, I don't have kids, right? But if I did and they were eating I don't know, what do kids eat these days? Takis? They're just throwing food around. Yeah, the leather would probably stain a little bit more. But between me and my girlfriend driving this car, we're not that careful about keeping the leather clean. I just wipe it down, just a little bit each time I wash the car. And the leather has remained basically perfect. What about the exterior of this car? Well, this car is black, which means each and every little scratch and nick and whatever issue, scrape, is going to really show up. Luckily, this car does not have that many scratches. And this is despite the fact that I know this is controversial, but I actually put this car through automatic car washes. And it's not a touchless one either. It's a whoop, 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 kind of wash. And I know I'm gonna get a bunch of hate for that, but you know what? I value my time, so boo. But the point I'm trying to make is that this paint has held up well despite going through automatic washes. And in fact, to this day, the most obvious paint damage on this car are the swirl marks that actually were there when I bought the car. Somebody at the dealership had cleaned the car and had wiped a little too aggressively. The other thing is that, there are a few very light scratches here and there from people just walking by in a parking lot, and let's say their, gym bag just scrapes across my paint, or, a purse buckle or something scrapes across. But really nothing out of the ordinary for a black paint job like this. The amount of wear and tear and scratches is extreme, in my opinion, very acceptable, especially because I'm not that careful about washing my car. I just stick it through an automatic wash. Wow, that view is absolutely stunning. I am in the mountains east of San Diego, and holy cow. All right, let's sum this thing up. Basically, what are my thoughts about the CX-30 after 7 months and 10,000 miles? I still feel the same way about this car as I did when I got it. And that's a really good thing, because when I got it, I felt that, well, shoot, this is gonna be a really ideal, comfortable, really nice, very stylish daily little CUV. And it has been, over that period of 7 months, this thing has been just dead reliable and has just fulfilled that function so perfectly that I gotta hand it to Mazda. They did a fantastic job with this thing. And with that little expression of gratitude for what a great car this is, I think that's time to end this video. If you enjoyed this video, if you do me a favor, hit the like button. That would be really, really, really wonderful. And also, if you're not subscribed yet, hit the subscribe button. I'm gonna keep making videos with this car every so often. I will update you guys if anything goes wrong, and if not, I'll just make a periodic mileage update and just be like, hey, here's how the ownership experience has been. So hit the subscribe button for more. I also do other car reviews and sometimes just like to sit in my garage and chit chat about cars, because that's fun too. Again, my name's James. Thank you so much again for watching until the end of this video, and I will catch you in the next one.